Yo, what is going on, everybody? It is D-Man coming back at it again with another YouTube video, and today we're going to be talking about our Tennessee Titans and who on the team has the most pressure going into next season, has the most to prove. And I've got a few Titans here, I think about five, six, seven, something like that, we're going to go ahead and go over today. And basically, these guys that I'm going to be showing you guys, they either need to have bounce back years, or they're going to either need to, they might have had a good year a few years ago. For example, Harold Landry, who had a phenomenal year a couple years ago, but since then has somewhat digressed, or, kind of got worse. But you could use the excuse that he didn't have any help. But now with us bringing Bud Dupree in, that should change, and he should prove us wrong this year, and he should be back to what he did a couple years ago. So that's really the only argument Harold Landry has for him to not have the numbers he had, in the past, because he had help, with Jarrell Casey and those guys back then. Last year, really didn't have anyone, Clowney, we thought Clowney was going to be a big help for Harold Landry, but obviously we saw how that panned out. So unfortunately that didn't, get Harold Landry to back to where we want him to be. But hopefully when bringing in Bud Dupree will help his case, and hopefully Harold Landry can get back to a possibility of maybe double-digit sacks. I could definitely see him getting 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, and I think that would be phenomenal. But I would love for Harold Landry to get double-digit sacks next season. Next guy is going to be Bud Dupree. Now, we just got finished talking about him when we were talking about Harold Landry. Bud Dupree here, really the only thing he needs to prove is that he can still do the same stuff after the injury, after tearing his ACL, because a lot of people have that doubt in their head. Players coming off ACL tears and stuff like that, injuries and stuff like that, will not be what they were in the past, and we've seen NFL players prove people wrong. We saw Adrian Peterson tear his ACL, then the season after ran for 2,000 yards, which in my opinion, that's insane. But if we can get anything close to that with Bud Dupree, that would be phenomenal. Now, Bud Dupree, we saw what he could do with help around him at Pittsburgh with TJ Watt and those guys there. But the question is, can he be that guy in Tennessee to kind of, go with Harold Landry on the outside? Now, Harold Landry is definitely not TJ Watt and guys like that from Pittsburgh, but Bud Dupree is basically changing his roles from what he was in Pittsburgh to pretty much, hopefully, will be the number one guy here. It could be Harold Landry, it could be Bud Dupree, either or, I'm fine with it. But hopefully Bud Dupree can come in here and show us he's still what he was before the injury. Next player is going to be Rashaan Evans. Now, Rashaan Evans, we saw last year, did not play up to what we expected him to play up to, because we've seen what he could do in 2-3 years ago, especially that playoff run there. That season, that was probably arguably his best year, 2019 year, where we were 2-4 and we were about to be 2-5 against the Chargers, and Melvin Gordon, I believe that was, I think Rashaan Evans made a big stop there, and Melvin Gordon, ended up fumbling the ball. Jarrell Casey got it, and 3-4, and then from there on, eventually got to the AFC Championship that year. And then we saw what Rashaan Evans could do in the playoffs as well. The goal line stand against the Patriots was one of the biggest, in my opinion. That was probably my favorite sequences from our run in the playoffs, was the goal line stand against the Patriots. I think if that didn't happen, I think we eventually would have lost that game. So Rashaan Evans, we've seen what he can do, but last year didn't play up to par, and it kind of all went downhill in the opener, where he got ejected for throwing a punch. I believe it was at Jake Butt of the Broncos. So, and then after that, it was really just, he didn't have a very good year. We saw David Long come in and play very well, and that's another reason why this is a prove-it year for Rashaan Evans, because we see, and we saw last year what David Long can do on the field. Arguably, I would say David Long's kind of a mix between Jayon Brown and Rashaan Evans. He can, play the pass, he can play the run. And we saw David Long come in here, and he played very well. So Rashaan Evans has to come in next year with that mindset of, if I don't play well this year, I'm going to be gone, because, we didn't pick up his fifth-year option. So next year he's an unrestricted free agent, I believe. So he's got to come in and play well if he wants to stay on the Tennessee Titans, because we know what we got in David Long, and I really like the kid, David Long. He's a really good player. So, again, Rashaan Evans, he has to come in and prove that he still belongs on this football team, and I think he will, and hopefully he does stay with us. But, we know what we got in David Long, and possibly we could see Rashaan Evans not be a Tennessee Titan next season. Not next season, but the season after. Alright guys, next player is going to be Caleb Farley. So you guys probably see a little theme here. A lot of defensive players. I mean, there's a reason there's a lot of defensive players on this list. It's because our defense was arguably one of the worst defenses in the history of the NFL last year. We were the worst defense on third down in the history of the NFL. I think we ranked 29th in the defense defensively in the league last year. It still made the playoffs, winning the AFC South. So we see what the offense can do. It's just up to the defense. If they can just be solid, be average, be top half of the league, we're going to be A-okay, because I don't know how you're going to stop the offense. So the defense, that's why you see a lot of defensive players here on this list. Now we have Caleb Farley here, who there's a lot of question marks around him, and he knows it. He's probably heard a lot. And there's a lot of Titans fans out there that are kind of concerned about us picking him in the first round. If he didn't have, injury problems with his back and stuff like that, he arguably could have been a top 10 pick, probably even maybe top 10. I would imagine he'd be top 10 if it wasn't for the injury. So I think we got a steal here in Caleb Farley. But the question is he going to be able to play? Is the injury still going to be a problem once we get to the year and stuff like that? But I really don't think so. I think he's going to be ready to go training camp, which is just around the corner. That's what the Titans, that's what people in the front office and training staff on the Titans, that's when they expect Caleb Farley to be back now. I wouldn't mind him, not playing a couple games to start the year if he still needs a little, but he needs to be good to go week 6, 7-ish. That, if he doesn't play half the year, that's going to be a problem for me. But if he can get 100% healthy, good to go, week 5, week 6, I'm good to go with that. And I think this kid's going to be a stud in the NFL if the injury is not holding him back. So, in my opinion, he knows there's a lot of talk about him being maybe even a reach in the draft due to his injury. He knows that he's got a lot of people to prove wrong, and that's why he's on this list. Next player is going to be Kevin Byard. Continuing on that defensive player trail here, we've got Kevin Byard. Now, Kevin Byard, we know what Kevin Byard can do. He had back-to-back Pro Bowl seasons, I believe. I might be wrong on that, but let me double-check really quickly. But Kevin Byard, we saw he only had 1 pick last year. But part of that reason is we had no pass rush, so he could definitely make the argument there. But now we bring in Bud Dupree, who will more than likely help out Harold Landry, and definitely help out Big Jeff, because Big Jeff was getting double-teamed and triple-teamed last season, which is unbelievable. So bringing in Bud Dupree should help that, help the pass rush out, obviously, and then our secondary should improve just because we get a pass rush back. So Kevin Byard, we've seen what he can do back in 2018, I believe. was one of his, or I think it might have been 2017. I think it was 2017, actually. I think he had 8 interceptions. And then 2018, 2019, he, also had very, very solid years. I think he had 4, 5, 6 picks in 2018 and 2019 each year. So I think maybe 2018 he had like 5 picks. Maybe 2019 he had like 4. So we know what Kevin Byard can do. Like I said, that 2017 year, he definitely is best year in the NFL. So we know what he can do. We know what Kevin Byard can do. And like I said, back in 2017, 2018, 2019, we had a pass rush. So that definitely does help his case there. So if we can get our pass rush back to what it needs to be, I think our secondary will be A-okay. So you guys might disagree with me here, but I'm going to throw Taylor Lewan on this list. Obviously, we know what happened to him last year. Tore his ACL early in the year. But he's been on the grind. He's been on the grind this whole offseason, getting back into shape, getting that knee ready to go. And I think he's going to be A-okay. But I'm going to put him on this list just because of the question marks. We've seen players go down with ACL tears and them not play up to par, the rest of the year. And shout out to Taylor Lewan. I think it might be his birthday today or yesterday or something. I want to double check on that, but I think it's his birthday either today or yesterday. I think he turned 30, so happy birthday, Taylor Lewan. But I'm still going to have you on the list. Like I said, we don't know how he's going to come back. Whether he be that Pro Bowl guy that we've seen in the past, or, will he turn into, I really, really hope not, but knock on wood. I really, really just hope he comes back and plays very, very well for us. And that was July 22nd. So today's the 23rd. So yesterday was his birthday. So happy birthday, Taylor Lewan. Happy belated birthday, Taylor Lewan. He did turn 30 years old too. So yeah, the big 3-0 for Taylor Lewan. But like I said, Taylor Lewan, he's got a lot of people to prove wrong because there's a lot of question marks circulating out there, and the fans out there. Probably a fan favorite. Definitely Taylor Lewan, a fan favorite. We see him on Bussin' with the Boys. So one of my favorite podcasts out there. So definitely a fan favorite, and a lot of people love this guy. So I really, really want him to stay in Tennessee just because of what what impact he has in Nashville. You could probably go to anyone on Broadway and ask them who Taylor Lewan is, and they're going to know immediately who he is because he's just that big of a name. And normally you don't get that out of offensive linemen, but this dude's personality is phenomenal, and I really, really hope he can return to what he was in the past before the ACL tear. So that is going to do it for the video. Let me know if I missed out on, you could have thrown ASAP Ferk in here, but I'm not going to just because the weapons on offense, ASAP Ferk doesn't have any pressure at all. Okay, he really doesn't. He just has to come in and just do his role because A.J. Brown, Julio, that's a lot of attention there. Derrick Henry in the backfield, that's a lot of attention there. So really, he doesn't really have any pressure because he's going to be, he's got so many stars around him. I don't want to say he doesn't have to play good, but he could just play his role and maybe have a couple 100-yard games this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more than that. Definitely wouldn't be surprised if he had more than that. You could have thrown him in here. Maybe even Dylan Radins if you want to throw him at right tackle, and put him on this list as well. I might have missed a couple that, if I look back on it, might have thrown them on the list, but for the most part, maybe even Christian Fulton with his injury coming back from that. But I think I really did do a good job. Big Jeff is another guy, but Big Jeff is a superstar. He's really, really underrated in the league, and he played very well last year, and he got doubled and triple teamed. That's unbelievable in my opinion. But yeah, let me know if I did miss out on anyone. Well, that being said, that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy, and until next time, I'll see y'all.